Hello and welcome to this week's Hot Topic. This week I am joined by Dan Wheeler, video editor on CVG.
Hello.
And Matt Elliott, a script editor on CVG.
Hello.
Hello. This week we are going to talk about Microsoft and its Xbox One self-publishing plans. But before we get to that, let's clear up a little thing about last week's show, which was all about Forza. And
I had no part in it.
No, you had no part in it. And it's online requirements, which after that show went out, Microsoft, again, which we'll talk about, it seems they've done with self-publishing, changed their minds, and now you don't need to be online to play the game. Right, Dan?
Yeah, you can play. I think you still need to download content to have the whole game experience, but you can start playing without the internet, and you can probably get halfway through, 3/4 of the way through without downloading anything.
So you can buy the disc, you can put it in your Xbox One, and it'll just work up into a point, and then it'll go, to download the next half of the game, you're going to need to go on the internet.
Yeah. Which I guess is a bit of a compromise. That's better than how it was before.
Yeah, at least it'll half work. Good.
Yeah.
Okay,
because what you want when you buy a game is for it to half work.
At full price.
Okay.
Yes. Well, so that's cleared up last week's little problem that we had. So moving on this week. So Microsoft have done another U-turn, another U-turn about their indie development policy.
We're getting dizzy with all this turning around.
The Xbox U, as I'm calling it now.
Good.
Just now, yeah.
Good. That'll stick, I think, Matt.
Yeah.
Definitely. So now the potential is that every Xbox One will be a development kit, or can become a development kit, so Microsoft have claimed. I'm going to read the quote out, and then we're going to have your instant reactions, because I know, Matt, you're quite sad. So, the official statement from Xbox corporate VP Mark Whitten is... Should I do a funny voice? No.
Probably best not to.
No, just
you might actually have a funny voice and be really offended.
Our vision is that every person can be a creator. That every Xbox One can be used for development, that every game and experience can take advantage of all the features of Xbox One and Xbox Live. This means self-publishing, this means Connect, the cloud, achievements, this means great discoverability on Xbox Live, and we'll have more details on the programme and the timeline at Gamescom in August. Go!
So, yeah, you lost me at this means Connect, I think.
I think that means you can utilise Connect if you want to make one of your games.
You maybe use Connect to make the games.
So this is the good ship Microsoft leaking again.
But yeah, it has a little bit.
This is something they didn't really want to talk about until Gamescom, where they have their press conference, or their global media briefing, as they call it.
Which is strangely weird for Microsoft, because normally it's Sony that are leaking all this stuff. But I guess because they've done such a good job of making everyone love their console so far, they don't really need to say anything. So like these Hot Topic shows aren't exclusively about Microsoft. It just so happens that all the news...
It's just damage control, isn't it? They've got a lot of ground to cover before a release. This was leaked, I think, in Game Informer, and then Mark Whitten came out and confirmed it, and he was a bit sad that the surprise was spoiled. I guess it's a good thing. It's a positive thing for devs. They still haven't cracked it properly. I think there's, like, just talking about the store, it looks like they're going the same way as the Apple Store, where everything is just bundled in, like full of AAA retail games alongside indie devs made by one person, and the most popular stuff is going to rise to the top.
Yeah, it'll be like a rating system.
Yeah, I think that's still a problem, because you're going to some hidden gems are going to go missing. But it's a step in the right direction, I think, with the dev kits and the debug kits.
I think it might be. Matt, you're not convinced.
There's two parts to this. I think it's absolutely the right decision, and it's something they should have been doing from the start. But it's yet another PR disaster, and they have showed at least that they're listening to people. But everything about their way that they're doing it just stinks of. I'm just not convinced at all. Just even things that they talk about, like self-publishing and achievements. I think things like that. Really, is there going to be no sort of management structure to checking achievements? There absolutely will be. There has to be.
Yeah.
They're saying it's going to be a really cursory thing, but the whole idea of it to me points to the entire structure of the indie games thing being far more controlled than they're actually letting on. Like PS4 is still going to be the machine of choice for indie games, and they are doing dev kits. The difference is that it costs about $2,500 for a PS4 dev kit, but it's got 12 gig of RAM. It's a machine for making games, and this isn't. This is a retail machine, and the best you're going to get is sort of the XNA Toolkit kind of indie games that you had on Xbox 360, and we all know exactly how good they were, like Baby Launcher and things like that. And not only that, but in the dashboard they were buried. Like this, I can't get the idea out of my head that this is just complete lip service to something. They've had loads and loads of devs coming out and saying like, we're sick of paying fees to update our games, we're sick of where you put us on the dashboard, and it's more sort of PR backpedaling, and nothing in what I've read suggests that there's going to be anything here that's really going to be able to sort of like pique people's interests and get them making amazing games. It feels a little bit like it's going to be LBP on like a larger scale, like just little things like a proper dev kit has like a library of stuff, it has kind of programming interfaces, it has RAM to help you run the game in an early build. This is going to have none of that.
No.
And I think the sort of they're going to rein stuff in because system security could end up being compromised and things. And the idea, I think, is that it's going to be cross-platform across like Surface and Windows 8. And again, Windows 8, like you sort of had Gabe Newell coming out and saying like, we don't want to, don't want to make stuff for this because it's intended to be a closed platform. I think anyone that looks at this and thinks like, wow, we're going to get all these great creative developers just set free on a machine to do whatever they want is out of their minds. I think it's a great idea to do it, but I think they're doing it wrong.
The problem with having potentially every Xbox One being a development kit, and I mean there are some pretty clever people who will own these consoles. If you let them self-publish games, you have the potential, especially if you're not regulating achievements and stuff. There's going to be so many games that just throw out massive amounts of achievements that you can just download.
You're going to have Chivos for just downloading this stuff.
And it'll become like a non-thing, like even more non-thing than it is now. Like what? I mean, achievements points don't even mean anything like trophies or anything like that, but it'll just become like, oh, I've got like 1 million points. And you're like, oh.
I think it's important to point out at this stage that these aren't the same dev kits that are going to be going to the massive publishers.
No.
So Ubisoft and Activision aren't going to be just getting Xbox Ones to make their games on. They're going to get the full debug kits, with, like you said, with the PS4, all the RAM. And I think it says a lot about Microsoft's current state of PR that hours after this story came out and Mark Whitten came out and talked about it, there are already people worried about it and questioning it. And then Phil Spencer had to take to Twitter and say, look, all these additional rumours that you're making up, like, we're not going to answer them right now, but you're probably wrong. But I think it's
probably wrong.
But I think it's just the state of mind. Microsoft has lost so much trust, and their whole process of revealing this console would have been so different if their reveal on the 21st of May had gone well. It would have panned out so differently, and they're really just trying to cover up patches in this leaky ship.
No, this isn't something. I mean, we've seen a form of this before. Like the PS3 you could install your own operating system and stuff, but I mean, Sony soon put an end to that after people started like putting like just loads of like extra games on it, and it being like an emulator for like everything and all of that stuff. Like it's I mean, that showed that it just doesn't really work if you let people play with it.
I think that's the thing. I think the PS3 is the reason why PS4 is they've got this right. You listen to Mark Cerny, and I know I'm kind of like a ridiculous Cerny fanboy.
You're almost like a Cerny fanboy. Like you follow him everywhere.
He's got such a calming voice. Got my little Mark Cerny t-shirt and a little pointy hand.
When your birthday comes around, wait to see what we get you for a present.
Well, it's so far away.
Like a Cerny doll.
Don't wait till then. But like PS3 was such a hard machine to develop for. They've clearly gone back to the developers and sort of talked to them properly and said, like, how can we make this easier for you? And I think the whole process of that is including indies in the whole kind of the whole bundle for PS4. Like, there seems to be a much smaller gap between what Dan was saying about like AAA games getting the proper Xbox One dev kit and indie developers have got the dev kit that comes with the Xbox One, which is like the Duplo equivalent, like the kind of the my first dev kit probably. And because PS3 was such a difficult machine, like Sony obviously sort of changed their policies, and you have proof of them talking to developers and getting a bit of feedback. I don't get any impression at all that there's been any discourse between Microsoft and indie developers on this. I get the impression that they've read lots of stories of developers saying like it's rubbish on Phil Fish shouting and not finishing Fez and things like that, and someone's gone, better do something about that. Let's make every Xbox One a dev kit. It's a cool idea, but I am unconvinced. I don't know if you're getting that.
No, I wasn't sure which side of the fence you were sitting on, actually, but now you're unconvinced. That's fine. Let's really briefly, like we love. Well, some of us love indie games. I've recently got a Mega PC and Steam and like all the games. So like Thomas Was Alone, Dan.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. That was good fun.
Well, that's it. That's made by one man.
Look, my opinions on indie games confuse me. Right? I think it's not a popular thing to come out now and say you love the AAA franchises. Right? Like, if you love COD, you love Assassin's Creed, people don't like you for that. It's all about sticking it to the man and going after the little guy. Yeah. I don't see why you can't have both.
No, having both is always better. More games is better for everyone.
People are saying they're worried about the console just being flooded with games now. You have to remember that there's still a certification process to go through. It's not like you can make a game and upload it and it's there and you start getting money instantly. You still have to send it to Microsoft. It's like Apple again. You have to send it to Microsoft, pay a fee. But Microsoft are taking small steps. They've squashed this update fee. They got rid of that. They're shortening the time of certification down to about 14 days, I think.
Right.
Down from like 6 weeks. And now this debug thing. It's small steps, but I think it's going to make a difference.
Could we clarify what self-publishing means? Because I think that's probably like the part of the confusion when they talk about you're going to be able to integrate Kinect and the cloud and achievements. It's not going to be that you're just going to be able to sort of shat out any old game with 1,000 points of achievements on it and it'll just appear on the store. There's still going to be an approval process.
Yeah, definitely.
You'll be able to make a game or a thing, and then you'll have to send it to Microsoft, and Microsoft will look at it and they'll go, well, no, this is clearly just giving everyone loads of achievements, and then that won't get on the store.
Yeah,
I'd imagine.
But I don't know how high their bar for quality is, because anyone that has been on the
well, you look at the Xbox Live,
the indie games, they're like the self-published games on Xbox 360, like the Avatar stuff. Some of it is just terrible. So there are some good stuff in there as well, but Microsoft's bar for quality just seems to be that it works.
Well, it's really hard to regulate, I guess, if you're getting like hundreds of thousands of submissions a day. If people are going, I've made this thing, there has to come a point where either you delay that 2-week process and go, it's going to take us longer to go through all of this, or some things will just slip through.
But I think that it has to be the desire of the developer to be on your machine. Like, it's not enough that someone that feels like making a game just makes it and then decides to shove it on Xbox One. Like, people are making games to be released on Steam and Apple games as well, and I think this was probably the sort of hidden gem of the PS4 conference at E3 that perhaps no one noticed, because we were all talking about like used games and things like that. They established that the indie games are going to be a big thing, and here are a few examples that looked great, really sort of sexy looking games, and unless people are really sort of pushing themselves to make a brilliant game for Xbox One, then you are just going to get Baby Launcher Extreme and things like that, and sort of very basic stuff. And there's nothing huge to suggest that we'll be getting anything different from what I've seen.
Alright, so overall, it's a good starting point. They're off the blocks, let's say.
Well, I'm cautiously optimistic. I don't think Matt is.
I think that's the right word. No, I am. I think it's definitely the right step. It's come at the wrong time. As ever, they've explained it badly and done a pretty bad PR job. But potentially, there's no question that indie games are definitely the future. I'm probably a little bit more sceptical because I had an indie machine when I was 7 years old, and it was called a Spectrum, and that's back from a time when everyone made games
Dan won't
themselves.
Understand what a Spectrum
is. It had tapes. You won't remember tapes.
Well, like a
tape
VHS.
No,
you
literally don't remember tapes.
No,
That's
actual
amazing.
cassettes.
Man,
you have to turn them over.
Yeah, and if sometimes it would eat the tape.
Yeah, the reel, and then you could.
Was it always online?
It was always plugged in. It had to be plugged in. Yeah,
we didn't even have modems back then, Dan.
No. So yeah, and I totally accept what Dan's saying about AAA being, it's sort of going through a bit of an uncool phase. But I think with stuff like Unity and Game Maker and the moves that Sony have made, and obviously this big step by Xbox, good indie games do have the chance to become huge. So I mean, in that respect, it's a great thing. So yeah, cautiously optimistic, but informed by a lot of stuff that suggests perhaps it's going to be a massive, crushing, unmitigated disaster.
Okay, well that's our three opinions on the matter. Let us know in the comments below who you agree with, who you disagree with. What are your thoughts on self-publishing on Xbox One and the Xbox One versus PS4 debate in general? I'm sure that will spark off a few comments down there. Join us again next week where we'll be talking about another hot topic in the games industry. But for now, goodbye.
Right.